Good afternoon on what is a warm, bright and sunny day. It is Sunday the 19th of March, Mother's Day in the UK, and I have a box to finish unboxing. Of course, I've got a nice cup of tea. Which I will finish once I've done this unboxing. So I've already been into this box and I have pulled out two things already. So we have the Pathfinder core rulebook, the Advanced Player's Guide, and the last book in here, and those are both special editions, as is the last the third and final book in this box, which is the Game Mastery Guide. Now, the core rulebook does include everything in it for the Game Master to run the game. The only thing the Game Master will need is a book of monsters, really, beyond that, and a scenario, unless he's written one himself. And the Advanced Player's Guide, more options for the player characters. This is options for the Game Master. And it's a lovely, photo-bound special edition of the second edition for Pathfinder from Paizo. We have a table of contents which lists down things like game mastery basics, tools, subsystems, variant rules, NPC gallery, glossary, and index. There we go. Nice, bright, and cheerful. We've got to get into the introduction on how to use the book. It says the focus of every Pathfinder game is the players. The characters are the stars of the show and appear in every scene that plays out in the game. But what about those scenes? What stories are being told? What old legends are being discovered? And what new ones are being forged? What are the villains, the allies, the traitors, the lovers, the monsters, and the gods? Who runs the world? When you're the Game Master, that's all up to you. And this is designed to help the Game Master set all that up and present something that is enjoyable and fun to play for his players and their characters. So we get into general advice, game mastery basics, all accompanied by some sort of fantastic artwork throughout. Options here, handling false information, improvisation, secret checks, use of hero points, handling things like metagaming, that sort of thing, of a player possibly using information that he knows but his character wouldn't. And he points out that sort of some metagame results naturally from play and is wise to disregard. So it says the wizard aiming a fireball precisely to include 3 enemies at the very edge of the spell's area is probably unrealistic, but it isn't disruptive to play. So it does acknowledge that it does go on, but there's sort of degrees of it. And I think that's a nice touch, because we've all done it. Okay, what's the best place to place this? We essentially in play, you've kind of got to get a top-down view of what's happening. So I'm going to place it there. So I'm going to get what's the best place to, as it says, to get all those monsters in my fireball spell and so on. Whereas if you're playing online in a game, if you're playing a computer game, it's going to be slightly different. You don't necessarily have that degree of control because of your point of view. Here we've got guide to running encounters. Again, the classic artwork. These are signature characters and figures that run throughout all of the Pathfinder line from Paizo. So you've got rules of speed, guidelines for speed of play, initiative, adult bonuses and penalties, adjudicating actions, using maps and miniatures. Okay, because it can also all be theatre of the mind, or you want to do miniatures. It's entirely up to you. Handling things like special battles and movement, mounted combat, classic combat, aerial combat. Always kind of difficult things to handle necessarily, in play, because it's literally adding extra dimensions to the situation, which that not only have you got to be aware of as the game master, but also the players are going to be aware of. Guideline for running exploration encounters. quick environmental details, more on searching, more on following, more on follow the expert, improvising new activities, and then scenes. So you've got a quick breakdown of different kind of types of terrain, and then over here that is scenes within exploration. So what sort of things you can do during exploration scenes, and there's things like investigations, getting lost, and then we have running downtime. And in some ways, downtime is perhaps possibly sort of the most fun, because you can really explore a city and see what your character might want to do, develop the character, make contacts, and it's a great sort of like. I always like downtime because there's lots of different scopes there for role playing and developing the background and so on. So options here include buying and selling, tasks and events, money and downtime, retraining, that sort of thing. It's all covered there. Generally adjudicating the rules. And it's just generally being fair, and that includes saying yes, but, or including house rules, or resolving problems. Of course, total party kills, problematic players, power imbalances, that sort of thing. And then expanding a little bit, you've got narrative collaboration. Essentially consulting the players for information and background and extra details which you can bring into the world as the game master, but inspired by your players. Special circumstances, so does cover here the Pathfinder Society organised play, which is a very big thing for Pathfinder players. They can play locally in sanctioned scenarios. Rarity in your game and handling that. Campaign structures. So linking adventures, building a campaign, recurring villains changing the world, starting and ending the campaign, dealing with things like failure and success. And again, these are good overviews. It's not, I don't think it's really, a page on that probably feels a bit short, but it's a good start. I'm going to say that. Designing individual adventures. And Pathfinder is not a game that is short adventures. There are numerous adventure paths, of course, starting off with Rise of the Rune Lord, that are well regarded and lots of fun to play. You've got different types of encounters and places to stage them, tones for handling, ideas behind planning planar adventure, military adventure, threats, corruption, story arcs. Again, the advice is all there. And then we get down to designing individual encounters, and whether that's locations, motivations for the enemy, dynamic encounters, making them exciting, social encounters, treasure by encounter, because of course players want to be rewarded or learn something from an encounter. Drawing maps with very simple, just here's a quick guide, here's a sample draw map that you might do yourself. Tools to help you all do this. So this includes, let me see, just flip over the page, building creatures. So this is creating new creatures, all the way up to covering hit points, saving throws, strikes, damage, spells, the whole lot. Next we've got trait abilities for building monsters, and then designing NPCs, and whether that's through the designing them as play characters, so essentially PC style builds, non-combat levels, that sort of thing. Building hazards, so that could be natural hazards, traps. They've got, for example, here sort of like hampering web, brown mold, a shrieker, a ghostly choir. So there is clarification on sort of like it is classification is quite neat. So a green slime is not treated as a monster necessarily, but it is an environmental problem. We've got complex hazards like perilous flash flood, or dance of death, or confounding betrayal. We have building items, so you can create your own treasure. This is dealing for your own campaign. Is it something interesting that the player characters might want to own and use, or is it a MacGuffin that they're after? We've got a list of item quirks to make the item, just a little bit more interesting than going, it does this, but it also does this. So, it might be a +2 stave of lightning, it might be slimy, covered by a thin layer of slime, or it's faceted and appears to be made of crystals or gems or something. Not always flaws, but just little things that add colour. We've got discussion of cursed items, including the deadly monkey's paw, relics for even greater items of magical power. So again, designing those, you've got plenty of samples in here, like Heaven's Grace or Angelic Vessel, or so on. So lots of different. It's more options to bring to the game to make it more interesting. Again, all neatly organised, illustrated, easy to find. And then we've basically done magical items, treasure items, we've done relics. Now we're on to artefacts. So there's quite a grade of different magical items. So this includes classic things like the Deck of Many Things, Axe of the Dwarven Lords, straight off, almost sort of classic Dungeons and Dragons style fantasy artefacts. But there are plenty in here that are different to that. There's their own ones that you wouldn't necessarily find in Dungeons and Dragons. Gems and objects to find because they sell well. Afflictions which the player characters might suffer and have to find a cure for. Diseases, drugs, and then we're on to building worlds. So the design approach, the world, mapping a world, civilizations. And again, this is a good introduction to the subject, but you could, write a whole book about this. But it's discussing different aspects of it. So, like, discussion of the nature of the religions practiced there, the factions, cosmology. Again, good overview, good introduction, but worthy of sort of like whole books. I mean, this whole chapter just on building a world could be a whole book. Similarly, nations. Nations get their own stat blocks, and we have some samples here. And then it digs down to you've done nations, now settlements. And then it's doing settlements. You've got nations and settlements of Lost Omens, the setting for Pathfinder. We've got like a settlement stat block, and there's some examples. And then we pull out, of course, away from set nations, worlds. We actually trip out onto the planes. It's got planar traits like time and gravity, morphic, things that change. Stat blocks for the planes, including more appearance by the classic player characters for or signature characters for Paizo's Pathfinder, and then descriptions of the various planes where adventures might take your players, including the ethereal plane, shadow plane, heaven, the abyss, and so on. We get into subsystems. These are the chapters are very clearly marked. You know which chapter in by the little box on the edge of the page. Victory points for giving your players rewards, and allowing them to be more heroic through achieving victory and then carrying on. Influence, Running an influence encounter. So what you're doing there is adding depth and detail to social encounters. So essentially, player characters attempting to influence other people, handling research, great for your alchemist or investigator, that sort of thing. Chases, often the most difficult kind of thing to really handle because you've got to track movements of different characters. Running a chase, and then we've got lists of obstacles to throw into the path of both the chased and the chaser. Infiltration. So essentially, rules here for building infiltration. Building an infiltration as sort of like as an objective in itself. With facing obstacles like guard posts, locked rooms, traps. Going through player character preparations, whether that's bribing contacts, forging documents, gaining contacts, gossiping, and so on. So these almost become, like a con job. If you want, you can run capers that way. So, with the infiltration and chase rules, there you've got rules for capers or parts of a caper. And then when all is done, you have reputation. How well have you done, what you're doing. For certain start games, duels, especially for like the swashbuckler character. Leadership, when you want to, the player character wants to just sort of step up and become onto a bigger stage, be more important. Hex exploration, so going out to the wider world and looking at the bigger, the bigger area of play. So running hex exploration is really, looking at sandbox kind of style play. Handling vehicles, mostly sort of carts and wagons, but doubtless, this all deal with, it also handles airships, carriages, boats, steam giants, rowboats, a lot. Variant rules. So new options for play. So the game master can pick and choose from these. So gradual ability boosts, alternative scores. Essentially allowing the game master to customize his game to fit what he wants to play, and what his group wants to play. So alignment variants, some people like alignment, some don't. And there are changes here, both minor and major. Sorry, just turning the pages. You just flip over something, you're going to miss something. Don't want to do that. Adding depth to a player character background. So family size, homeland, major events during your player character's childhoods, and more. And that's really helpful if you sort of kind of build them into a world, and you've got elements within that, within those rules, within that building the character's background, which you can bring into play. Feats and features. So a discussion, more depth the characters, so you can build dual class characters and how to play them. Even playing level 0 characters. So how to build them and what the gameplay they offer. Proficiencies without levels, using skill points to design characters. Handling stamina, if you want your game to be sort of like a bit more endurance focused. Then we have NPC gallery. So we've got courtiers, nobles, advisors, palace guards, criminals, ruffians, burglars, assassins, fences, just typical kind of player characters or NPCs which you can bring into play with and modify as necessary. devotees, various cults and faiths, the downtrodden, including the urchin and the prisoner and the beggar, explorers, foresters. So there's quite a lot in here. Healers. Complete. You've got an apothecary, or physician, and then a surgeon, or complete with cleaver, or saw, labourers, magistrates. You saw, because it's quite likely your player is going to end up in front of one of those, more or less, members of sort of like members of the authorities, mercenaries. Mystics. Again, members of officers of the law, of the authorities, of society. So that includes barrister, guard, jailers, watch officers, even executioners, performers. Scholars, seafarers, simple tradesfolk, villains, including an anti-paladin, a saboteur, a mastermind. Of course, they're written as villains, but you've got, any of the other previous NPCs could be villains. You also got a despot, reckless scientists, gang leaders in there, and then glossary and index. Nice idea. I do like the combined glossary and index, because essentially you don't need to necessarily need to look everything up. You can just got a summary of what it is and where you can find it, all in the one section. It's really very useful. So yeah, that is the the Game Mastery Guide for Pathfinder 2nd Edition. This is the limited edition book, which I enjoyed, published by Paizo. Quite enjoyed leafing through that. If you've enjoyed this unboxing in the Nook, please do click on the like button down below. And of course, if you've got any comments or feedback, I do appreciate you taking the time to post those. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to get more unboxings in the Nook, where you'll see me out here with a box containing a book or game which I'll unbox and chat about to the best extent of my knowledge for roughly 10 minutes, all of course accompanied by a nice hot cup of tea, then please do click on the subscribe button down below. Thanks again for watching another unboxing in the Nook. Be back again soon with another one. Bye for now.